So I've been making videos about no shampoo hair washing for quite some time now, and one of the most common problems I hear and questions I get asked is how do you combat the grease? How do you stop your hair being so greasy and looking like you just dipped your head in a deep fryer? Well, in this video I'm going to go over the best tips and best regimen to combat that grease and so that you too can bask in the glory of your hair health. So the first thing to discuss about this topic is when you quit shampoo, you'll go through what's called a transition period. Now on this period, it is expected that you will have greasier hair than usual. The reason for this is because your scalp produces oil naturally, but when you use shampoo, the shampoo strips that oil away. Now what this leads to is it leads to your scalp to produce more of this oil, which is called sebum, by the way. So then when you suddenly start doing the no shampoo protocol, your scalp is still producing all this excess sebum and it just overloads your scalp and you end up with that greasy hair that you don't want. And then many people are discouraged and end up quitting because they simply cannot get rid of the greasy hair. Now the length of the transition phase varies from person to person. It can be just a couple of weeks or it can be a few months. It depends how much you use shampoo and how harsh the shampoo you currently use is, as well as individual differences between people. So if you're someone who suffers from this grease problem especially badly, or if you just really don't want to deal with grease at all during that transition phase, but you do want to start doing no shampoo, then the best tip I can give you is to gradually phase out shampoo rather than just cold turkey getting rid of it all at once. So let's say you're an excessive hair washer and you wash your hair 7 days a week with shampoo. Now this is a lot and you are going to be stripping away your oils from your hair very excessively by doing this. So if you try and just stop shampoo entirely all at once, you will have very greasy hair, no doubt. So what you could try is start for the first week only washing your hair with shampoo for 5 days of the week. So that's a reduction from 7 days to 5 days. And on those other 2 days, you could try to not even wash your hair at all. But if it is really greasy, just wash it with cold water only. It's hard to give an exact progression program of reducing and eliminating your shampoo usage because the amount of grease you deal with is going to vary person to person. So you really just have to stay vigilant and monitor that hair health, monitor that grease, and just on your own phase out the shampoo in the correct time frame. Now, the next thing you're going to want to know about doing this phasing out of shampoo is you should use a shampoo that's sulfate free. Try and use a lighter, less harsh shampoo that will strip away the natural oils in your hair a lot less. This will allow you to wash that grease out of your hair without stripping too much oil away so that your scalp can gradually adapt to producing the correct amount of oil for your hair. So to summarize, get a sulfate-free shampoo and gradually reduce the amount you wash your hair. If you currently wash it 7 days a week, start for the first week with 5 days a week of washing and then reduce to 4, then 3, etc, etc. If you currently wash your hair once a week or twice a week, it's going to be much easier for you to phase out shampoo, and the grease is likely to be temporary, assuming that it's not the result of some other factor like hormone imbalance or diet or something like that. Alright, so the next tip is you're going to want to avoid washing your hair with hot water. Now lukewarm is okay, but I like it to be a little bit cold. It doesn't need to be uncomfortable, it doesn't need to be icy, but cooler water is better because hot water will strip away the natural oils your hair produces. So the worst possible routine you could do for stripping away your oils is use a very strong sulfate-rich shampoo and wash it with hot water every day. If you're doing something like that, you're going to be really stripping away your oil. So it is definitely expected that if you just cold turkey quit shampoo, your hair will be excessively greasy. But remember, this isn't because no shampoo is inherently bad or something. It's just because of the way that your scalp's adapted to your very unnatural regimen. Now, I should also add that you don't want to be too robotic or regimented with your hair washing frequency if you're trying to transition to no shampoo. Rather, it's better instead to just wash your hair when you need to. Now, if you are dealing with a grease problem, then of course you might need to somewhat regularly. But you should really try to go as long as you can without washing it so that your hair and scalp can adapt and stop producing so much oil. Rather than seeing a hair wash as something that you have to do every so often within a specific time frame, you should start to see it as something you do when necessary, when your hair's dirty or oily, something like that, rather than just every day I wash my hair. Now, another thing you can do if you're really struggling with grease, but you do want to phase out shampoo, is you can switch to natural hair washing methods. So one of these that's quite effective is baking soda. So what you want to do is mix a small amount of baking soda with water. You don't want to use too much or do this too frequently because it can dry out your hair. But you just want to make kind of like a paste with a bit of water and baking soda. And then massage that through your scalp and your hair. And then of course rinse it out. Be sure to rinse it thoroughly when you're using these kinds of things because you don't want to have the product left in your hair afterwards. Now, I haven't used this myself because I don't really deal with greasy hair, but I have heard many people say that it's very good for getting rid of excessive grease buildup. You just have to be careful with quantity and avoid doing it too often and using too much. Another one of these natural hair washing solutions that's useful is apple cider vinegar mixed with water in a 1-to-1 ratio. Now again, you just want to use the solution as a hair rinse, and this will help to reduce the excess oil buildup. And then of course, again, wash it very thoroughly because you don't want to have that vinegar smell to your hair. That's going to be even worse than having greasy hair. You can actually also use egg yolks. You just want to whisk up some egg yolks and then run it through your hair, let it sit for a few minutes, and then again, rinse it out very thoroughly. And again, it can help to nourish your hair and reduce that excess oil buildup. These natural hair washing solutions can be incorporated into your transition phase by using them as a substitute for shampoo washing if you really are struggling with grease buildup. Let's say, for example, you've reduced the amount that you use shampoo by 50%, but then you have some days where you really struggle with the grease buildup and to go without shampooing. Well, perhaps pick one of those days and rather than not washing it at all, start washing it with the baking soda solution or the apple cider vinegar or eggs or something like that. So the next tip that I would give to reduce the amount that your hair gets greasy during the transition phase is to use a boar bristle brush to brush your hair after you've washed it to really help distribute the natural oils in your hair throughout your hair and to the ends so that it doesn't just clump at the roots and stay greasy. Mechanically cleaning your hair and distributing the grease like this can really help a lot with reducing that greasy appearance. The other thing that you should do is you should be massaging your hair and running it through your hair whilst you're washing it and kind of massaging your scalp at the same time. This again will help to distribute the grease and to help make sure that you clean it out properly, even if you're not using shampoo. If you just rinse your hair but don't actually touch it with your hands, then the grease can easily stay clumped up. But if you're moving your hair like this and massaging it, then that can really help to get that grease out of your hair. Another very important tip that's neglected a lot, which I'm not going to go into huge detail on, is diet. Now, I'm not sure there's really hard proof about this, but I'm quite firmly convinced that diet plays a significant role in your hair health, the amount your scalp's producing grease, the overall quality and thickness of your hair. I suppose in that case, it's well documented that having proper nourishment is important for thick and healthy hair. But even for the grease issue, I mean, hormone imbalance is a known problem for causing greasy hair, and what you eat affects your hormone levels. If you eat unhealthily, if you don't eat properly, if you don't get enough nutrients, then you are likely to suffer hormone imbalances, which can cause your hair to be greasy. I also think that eating really unhealthy deep fried foods like KFC or just rubbish slop like that is likely to influence greasy hair. Again, I don't have proof of this, but it just seems like a reasonable assumption to make to me. This video isn't supposed to go over in depth proper diet, but if you just stick to a common sense healthy diet, meet your proper requirements for things like protein, omega-3 fatty acids, your fat soluble vitamins like vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin D, getting enough minerals like calcium and potassium. Essentially just get adequate nutrition, avoid junk food and eat unrefined foods. And I think if you do that, then you're likely to avoid problems with greasy hair as a result of your diet. Now the final tip is one that very few people are going to want to do, I'm sure, but it is the way that I did things when I quit using shampoo. And that's to shave your head when you quit shampoo. Now the reason for this is if you have a shaved head, then it's a lot easier to deal with grease. You will have a bit of an oily scalp, but it's better to have a slightly oily scalp. It's a lot easier to deal with than it is to have a big head of hair that's full of grease and looking like it's dripping with oil or something. I didn't actually really notice much the grease problem during my transition phase because of the fact I had a shaved head, and it definitely made it a lot easier to deal with because, as I said, I didn't even think about it. So if you shave your head and just wash your head with cool water regularly as you see fit, depending on how much grease you get built up on your scalp, and then massage your scalp as I mentioned, then by the time your hair's grown back properly, you very likely will have overcome that transition phase, and your hair won't be greasy if you've only been sticking to cool water. Assuming, of course, again, there isn't some other factor that's causing your hair to be greasy, like diet or hormone imbalance. So that's going to wrap up my main tips for avoiding greasy hair. If I do think of any more, then I'll include them in a subsequent video. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And I hope that if you incorporate these tips, you'll be able to bask in the glory of some quality grease-free hair.